Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome. SpaceX is about to launch the Telkomsat Merah Putih 2 mission. It's an Indonesian communication satellite. So we're going to watch along. Scad, good to see you. It's been a while. Hope you're well. So we're going to get in. We'll start with the promotional video for the actual satellite. And then we'll go from there. So this is about 2 minutes.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
There you go. You can see the Merah Putih satellite just in front of you with the sun behind it, giving it a nice backlight. And successful
Payload
separation.
separation confirmed.
As I just heard, payload separation confirmed. You can see it. It's looking good.
So that is the mission that we're looking at today. And it should be launching from Florida. Hang on, I'm typing something real quick. Forgot the date, but there you go. So that's what we got coming up today. The launch time is 3:11 p.m. today, so we're about 18 minutes from launch, about 3 minutes from SpaceX's coverage. So we'll go through all of the other information. SpaceX is targeting February 20th for Falcon 9's launch of the Telkomsat Merah Putih 2 mission to geosynchronous transfer orbit from Space Launch Complex 40, SLC 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. There's a 2-hour launch window. It looks like we're on the launch window right now. This will be the 17th launch of the first stage booster supporting this mission, which previously launched CRS-22 Crew 3, Turksat 5B Crew 4, CRS-25 Eutelsat HOTBIRD 13G, mPOWER-a, PSN SATRIA, and 8 subsequent Starlink missions. 5-stage SEP. The first stage will land on Just Read the Instructions in the Atlantic Ocean. T-minus 38, we have go for propellant load. We're already well within that window. We're also inside of the RP1 loading and the first stage LOX loading. The second stage of LOX loading should be underway or just about to be called out. Haven't heard the call out yet. So that's where we're at, about that 16-minute mark. So T-7, we get engine chill. T-1 is command computer to begin final pre-launch checks and propellant tank pressurization to flight pressure. T-45, SpaceX Launch Director verifies go for launch. 3, we get ignition sequence start and liftoff of Falcon 9 at all zeros. We're doing a heavy right turn today, so launch and ascent, stage sep, flip maneuver. The fairing will separate and continue to carry the payload, and the first stage will return to Earth to land on just read the instructions. T+113, we get max Q, and it's a pretty standard profile from there. I was looking at a different set. First in stage, main engine cutoff at plus 231. About 4 seconds later, we get stage separation. 7 seconds after that, we get second engine start 1. Fairing deploys at T plus 3 minutes and 34 seconds. Yes, we are talking heavy right turn. Then our entry begins at T plus 6 minutes and 18 seconds. The first stage will complete its job and land at T plus 8 minutes and 37 seconds into flight. And T plus 33 minutes and 34 seconds, Merah Putih 2 will deploy. So that's what we got coming up. Let's take a look at the 45th Space Weather Squadron, see what they have going on for today's launch. Just looking over here at mission forecast. Less than 5% probability of violating weather constraints for the cumulus cloud rule. It is a 63 degrees Fahrenheit with a 60% or 67% humidity in lovely Florida. Full visibility. Liftoff winds at 200 feet are at 350 degrees, 16 to 24 miles an hour. Cumulus clouds, few coverage, base of 2,000, tops of 3,000, nothing to be concerned with there. And then additional risk criteria, upper level wind shear is low, booster recovery weather is a low concern, and solar activity is a low concern. For whatever reason, if there is some sort of delay, we're still at about 5%, so weather will not be an issue in today's mission. And with that, we're just waiting for SpaceX to fire up their coverage of the Telkomsat mission. See if SpaceX has any updates. Haven't seen any. We're about 13 minutes out from liftoff. And it looks like everything is on time for an on-time departure today. Seems to be about 13, 14 maybe minutes. This is our trajectory for today's mission. So we're leaving Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, hard right east. Drone ship will be right out here. And then it will continue on. So that's what we have as far as that's concerned. So we're just waiting, and SpaceX has coverage.
Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 awaiting its 3:11 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. My name is Soumi Srivastava, and I'm a responsible engineer for the Falcon Heat Shield here at SpaceX, and I'm joining you from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Welcome to our live launch coverage
Florida.
of the Merah Putih 2 mission for our customer, Telkomsat. Today's launch marks SpaceX's 16th mission of 2024 and its 311th to date.
Hang on, I'll let them talk.
The Merah Putih 2 mission will strengthen connectivity over the Indonesian archipelago and will accelerate the deployment of digital infrastructure in Indonesia by providing satellite-based backhaul and enterprise services. We'll have more to share about today's mission later in the webcast. At T-minus 10 minutes and 15 seconds, let's learn a little bit more about the Falcon 9 that's supporting today's mission, which is flying for its 17th time today.
Let's do that.
On the pad today is Falcon 9, a two-stage rocket that's designed and manufactured by SpaceX for the reliable and safe transport of people and payloads into Earth orbit and beyond. It's the first orbital-class rocket capable of reflight. The entire vehicle stands around 229 feet tall, or about the height of a 21-story building. The bottom two-thirds of the vehicle is the first stage, which is also referred to as the booster. And the booster is responsible for accelerating the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere and into space using 9 M1D engines, and then separates from the rest of the rocket. The number 9 in the name refers to those 9 Merlin engines that power Falcon 9's first stage. The engines are named after the Merlin, which is a species of falcon. And the photo you're seeing now are these 9 Merlin engines that are just like the engines responsible for getting today's payload to orbit. Not only is the first stage the largest part of the rocket, but it's also the portion of the rocket that we attempt to land on one of our autonomous drone ships or back on land for future reuse. Today, we're planning to land on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. To date, we've landed Falcon 9 274 times. And reusability is super important as it allows us to refly the most expensive parts of the rocket, which in turn drives down the cost of access to space. Above the first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine that ignites after the first stage separates. And that second stage is what will carry Merah Putih 2 into orbit. Speaking of the payload, Merah Putih 2 arrived in Florida in late January, and since then, the teams have been integrating the spacecraft to Falcon 9's second stage in preparation for launch. The payload is safely enclosed inside of the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which is the large barrel structure with the pointed nose on top of the second stage. The fairing protects satellites on their way to orbit and are jettisoned approximately 3 minutes into flight, and the fairing is made of a carbon composite material. The fairing halves supporting today's mission are both flight-proven, with one half flying for its 10th time and the other half flying for its 11th time. And after separation from the second stage, both fairing halves will return to Earth and will be recovered by our recovery team. At T-minus 7 minutes and 44 seconds, Falcon 9 is tracking no issues and the payload is healthy. Falcon 9 has been loading propellants since T-minus 35 minutes and will finish loading at around T-minus 2 minutes. The range is ready to support and weather is green for our mission today. And if for some reason we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 12:53 p.m. Eastern.
We don't want to hear about backup opportunities. So, yeah, the ocean looks like it has a little bit of roughness to it today. Oh, now they're gonna do the. Hey, Jude.
That was an awesome video from our customer Telkomsat. Next up, the transporter erector, or TE, will retract away from Falcon. That's the large truss structure you see there standing next to the rocket. First, we'll see the clamp arms open up around the second stage, and then the TE will begin to pull away from the rocket slowly. At T0, ground hydraulic systems will pull the TE even further away from Falcon 9 as it lifts off. The first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the TE, but the structure is hinged and will retract from the vehicle in preparation for launch. You may also hear it referred to as a strong back from the launch team when you're listening to the nets. We use the TE to roll the rocket out to the pad and raise it to its...
I want to explain what geosynchronous orbit is because
Strong back lower.
there's always some...
We should have a view of the clamp arms opening up in a couple seconds from now.
All right, I'm just going to mute. So geosynchronous orbit is a period of orbit where the satellite stays above a specific area, meaning they can provide specific connectivity to one place. So it's an orbital period that matches Earth's rotation on its axis. So that orbital period is 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds, or 1 sidereal day. So for an Earth observer, it means that it stays in the same spot, essentially. It has a constant altitude of 35,786 statute kilometers, or 22,236 miles above Earth. So we're going a little bit further out. And the idea is to keep it in the same spot so you can provide connectivity to one specific area or one specific range of area. So that's what we're looking at when we talk to geostationary instead of low Earth orbit, which is usually a couple hundred kilometers above Earth's surface. And it has an orbital track that is not stationary to one geographic location on Earth.
The white clouds you see around the vehicle are the chilled gas above the LOX tank that we vent overboard to maintain pressure inside of the tank as needed. When that water comes out into contact with the humid, moist Florida air, it condenses into that cloud that you're seeing.
Close out.
At T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup, and that means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. And then, just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, we'll light the M1D engines for liftoff. Merah Putih 2 continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. The weather is still looking green, and the range is ready to support our T0 of 3:11 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that, we are proceeding into the last few minutes of terminal count.
So we're coming up on that startup and that critical time of the go. So they're closing out the locks. And what that means is they're closing out supplying any liquid oxygen to the vehicle.
Second stage LOX load completion, and the white cloud that's venting is venting from the TE LOX line, and that is totally normal. In about 30 seconds,
ground gas closeouts.
We should hear that F9 is in startup.
So we're getting ground gas closeout. So now they're purging all those lines, closing them out, so nothing goes back into the tank farm. About 15 seconds from that pressurization and internal power startup. Should hear those call out soon.
Falcon 9 in startup.
And we're in startup. About 10 more seconds, we should hear that go for launch that we're waiting for.
Go for launch.
We just heard from the launch director that all systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 with the Merah Putih 2 payload. Now let's sit back and watch.
Go SpaceX, go Falcon 9.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and lift off. Go Falcon. Go Falcon. Vehicles pitching downrange.
At T+30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying the Merah Putih 2 payload. During ascent, we tilt the engines, also known as gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally in what we call a gravity turn. In a gravity turn, the vehicle is still going up, but now we're also heading horizontally away from the launch pad. Moments ago, we throttled the engines down in preparation for max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
And a good call out for max Q.
Just heard, we had max Q. And the rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and get into orbit. So keep an eye on the stage 1 telemetry that's at the bottom of your screen.
So the next milestone will be main engine cutoff. You know it's getting close because those plumes will start expanding.
Now we have 3 events coming up in quick succession, starting with MECO, or main engine cutoff, stage separation, SES-1, or second engine start 1. And that's coming up in around 30 seconds from now.
As you can see, they're starting to burn out and really spread out. And that makes them less efficient and means the first stage's job is done. So.
Vehicles on the nominal trajectory.
Still nominal. Coming up on that MECO.
Main engine cutoff.
And we have MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
And there you heard and even saw those 3 events that happened back to back, which were MECO, stage separation, and second engine start 1. Coming up next will be fairing separation. That's in about a minute from now.
Impact air pressures are nominal.
We have some really beautiful views from space. You can see the grid fins have deployed on the left-hand side of your screen on the first stage.
Great views today, though. Great views. So the left side is going to be coming back to Earth and landing on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. That is the payload side. There is the payload.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And now the payload is exposed to the vacuum of space.
We just saw fairing separation, and we'll be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves again today once they fall back to Earth with our recovery vessel, Bob.
Bob's going to catch the fairing halves.
Both vehicles are on a nominal trajectory.
Beautiful views today. It's so clear.
It's now T+4 minutes and 20 seconds into today's mission. Just past the T+6 minute mark, you should see on your screen the first stage entry burn. To start the entry burn, we'll relight 3 M1D engines, starting with the center engine, known as E9, followed shortly by the E1 and E5 engines. And it's similar to pumping the brakes to slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. We need to slow down to reduce re-entry forces,
Oh,
which then
awesome,
helps us
Seth.
recover and reuse the first stage. During the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing its Merlin engines, but we're still moving really fast, and this causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, which are also known as the plume, and this deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle surface. And that soot comes from the carbon-based fuel, the RP1, that Falcon 9 burns, and with each flight, the soot builds up a little bit more on the outside of the vehicle. Oftentimes, prior to launch, you can see that soot on the first stage as it's sitting on the pad. We have a really awesome view of stage 2, and you can see on your screen it's still picking up speed, and as it heads to its destined orbit.
So we continue to see it.
Both stages are on a nominal trajectory.
We're at about 15,000 kilometers per hour on the payload stage, or the second stage. You see some ice building
Entry
up
burn
on the outside.
The first stage is coming up in a couple seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
And entry burn startup. So we should see it drop down to about 5,000 kilometers per hour. And then it will pick back up a little bit until it starts encountering atmosphere yet again.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
So on the left-hand side of your screen, we have stage 1. You could see that it really decelerated as its speed slowed down. Reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, which enables more investments in critical scientific research. The Falcon 9 first stage that's supporting today's mission will perform this entry burn for its 17th time, having previously supported missions like CRS-22 and 25, NASA Crew 3 and Crew 4, and Turksat 5B.
And again, great views since the cloud level is not very heavy today. The left side's coming back in.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
It's about 10 kilometers above the Earth right now. And coming up on transonic.
Stage 1 transonic.
There we go.
The Merlins on the first stage are optimized for sea level and achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust each during ascent and entry. After liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage has more thrust than 5 747 airplanes at full power. The MVAC engine, with a much wider nozzle, is optimized to 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum.
Stage 1 landing burn startup. And the next shutdown.
So we have second engine cutoff. It's already to its assigned speed. It will continue to raise
nominal park orbit insertion
later. We can see the drone ship in view on the left side there.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Landing legs deployed and touchdown. Another great mission. Oh, we got a little bit of
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
That landing marks SpaceX's 275th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. We still have one more burn of our second stage engine before we're ready to deploy Merah Putih 2 today. In a moment, we'll be going into coast, and we'll see you back here at the T+27 minute mark for the relight of our MVAC engine. But before we do, let's take a deeper dive on how Thales Alenia Space is growing the network.
Telkom is the biggest digital telecommunication company in Indonesia, which has complete digital business portfolios that are categorized into 3 digital business domains. Telkomsat is a Telkom Indonesia subsidiary which leads Telkom's satellite business line. We can now proudly present As the sun rises,
Give me just a
signaling
moment
a
when we
new
will
beginning to
take through
extend our reach to forge
payload
stronger
deploy.
connections.
Right
It's
back.
time to join us on a journey to discover new horizons with limitless connectivity. Just like the archipelago of Indonesia, where diversity spans across more than 17,000 islands, serving as a strength. We've soared extensively, weaving stories and news into the fabric of every corner, from bustling cities to rural villages. As the largest satellite service provider in Indonesia, we consistently work towards offering communication services with internationally recognized satellite infrastructure, playing a key role in expediting the communication transformation in this digital era. With the best talents on board, we wholeheartedly ensure our communication technology services flow seamlessly. Providing end-to-end solutions. With decades of experience, we keep innovating to deliver the best services. Ensuring smooth and comfortable communication for all. We journey with speed, connecting far and wide indeed. In the satellite industry, our goal is to lead, extending beyond Indonesia's dead across Asia where our influence will spread. Together with Telkomsat, let's discover new horizons where there are no limits.
Yeah, we'll stick around till payload deployment. I had to coerce Mystic into going to get the kids. So. We'll talk about what's coming up in spaceflight, where we're waiting for this, for them to come back for the relight, and then the payload deploy, and all that good stuff. So, what is coming up? We have several space missions coming up. It's always busy in the skies. So we have February 22nd at 11:02 p.m. Eastern Time, we have Falcon Starlink Group 7-15 out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. That same day, earlier in the day, at what time did I say? 17:49, so 5:49 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have deployment of the IM-1 moon mission that we saw launch the other day. And I guess since we're here, we can take a look at IM-1 and their update that they gave yesterday. So IM-1 is a commercial payload that's going to land on the surface of the moon. Looking for their update. And actually, we can track IM-1 live. So let's see. Maneuvers and events update. There we go. That's what we want. Let's move this guy over here. And we'll pull this down for a second. So this is Intuitive Machines. This is IM-1. This is the mission update that they gave yesterday. So we'll watch this through.
Hello and welcome back to the broadcast booth at Intuitive Machines' Mission Operations Center in Houston, Texas. Right now, flight controllers are preparing planned trajectory correction maneuvers ahead of lunar orbit insertion. Since the IM-1 mission launched on SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket, flight controllers on our red, white, and blue teams have been learning more about the lander and how to efficiently fly the mission to return the United States to the surface of the moon. Yesterday, Intuitive Machines published the first IM-1 images, capturing our home as our lander drifted away towards the moon. These images are only a few of what our Nova C-class lunar lander actually sent to Houston. It takes a lot of planning, work, and a little bit of luck to get images like these. Payload integration managers program the lander's wide and narrow field of view cameras
We
to take
should.
5 quick images every 5 minutes for 2 hours, starting 100 seconds after separating from SpaceX's second stage. So, what we actually got back to Earth looks something like this. Out of all these images, the ones we chose to show humanity's place in the universe came down to 4 wondrous images that we hope inspire the next generation of risk takers. Moving forward, Intuitive Machines expects to execute lunar orbit insertion on February 21st with a lunar landing opportunity on the afternoon of the 22nd. We intend to stream the landing on the Intuitive Machines IM-1 webpage and announce the exact landing time tomorrow as Columbia Sportswear takes over the exterior of Sphere in Las Vegas, showcasing the role OmniHeat Infinity technology is playing in the IM-1 mission.
So that's the update from Intuitive Machines, or IM-1. So as I said, they do plan to broadcast it. And I will certainly cover it live here. So we'll go back to the SpaceX footage. I'm fairly confident in this mission that it's going to land. It was aboard a SpaceX rocket. And everything looks good so far. So the hope is that we can get a good touchdown. We can actually, if I can remember where I put stuff, which is always challenging. Always very challenging. So this is kind of courtesy of the launch pad. So this is where it currently is in orbit. So we went around the Earth, then we went into, we're about to come into orbit around the moon, and this is the anticipated touchdown spot. So this is where we are currently. So this is a lunar tracker from the launch pad. It continuously updates its space in space. So that's kind of what we got going on right now. We'll go back to SpaceX, although nothing is happening currently. Ooh, that's loud. Nothing's happening currently. We're about 14 minutes out from deployment, payload deployment. So back to what we have coming up. So we have the Chinese Space Agency with a Long March 5 rocket with an unknown payload launching February 23rd at 6 a.m. from Wenchang Space Launch Site in China, LC 101. We have another Falcon 9 Block 5 Starlink Group 639 that's supposed to leave Cape Canaveral. And that will be about 5 p.m. on Saturday. Then we have the Frigate M, Meteor M 24 from the Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia on a Soyuz 2.1B. That's at 1 a.m. Eastern on Thursday, February 29th. And also Thursday, February 29th, we have a 7 a.m. launch of a Long March 3BE, also with an unknown payload from LC-2 at Xichang Satellite Launch Center in China. These are government launches, so we should get to see them. Yes. Other ones that are scheduled for February but don't look good. Looks like they might get pushed back to March are the ABL SS RS-1. It's their second test flight from Kodiak, Alaska, which has a terrible track record for launching spacecraft. It's about 50% success rate. We also have a Falcon 9 Group 716 Starlink mission out of Vandenberg that is scheduled for February. And we have a Falcon 9 Starlink Group 6-40 also scheduled for February from SLC 40 at Cape Canaveral. And then that takes us into March. March has some interesting spaceflight as well. We have, as Scott said, we have Crew 8 from SpaceX that will launch from Kennedy Space Center. Transporter 10 out of Vandenberg. We have Keros maiden flight out of Japan. There's a commercial resupply mission, SPX 30, that's leaving Cape Canaveral in March. One of my favorite rockets we have coming up, the Delta IV Heavy NROL 70, so the National Reconnaissance Office. And if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the last Delta Heavy flights. I think we were supposed to have the last Delta Heavy flight, and because the ULA's new configuration didn't work, I think they brought it back. But that's one of my favorite rockets. The Russians are putting up various Soyuz in March. So Soyuz 21A and 21B. Let's see, what else is interesting? The Indian space program is putting up EOS 5. And this one we probably won't be able to see, but there's a Minotaur 4. So an intercontinental ballistic missile. There's a test launch of a Minotaur 4 out of Vandenberg Space Force Base. So let's see what else we have. We have an Atlas 5, USS F-51 out of the Cape. Alpha Rockets Firefly demo out of March. There's another Electron rocket out of New Zealand in March. So it's going to be a busy March. Busy end of February, busy March. There are several. Hopefully in March also we're going to get another orbital launch test out of Super Heavy from SpaceX out of Starbase, Texas. I want to make it down there, but it's probably not going to happen this go round. Maybe next one. The Chinese launches are different, but they've been interesting, and especially their sea launch platform that they've recently developed. But we have pages of launches coming up in March, so we should have plenty to do. Oh, what was that? Oh, Ariane Space is, but that's not until 2031. So we have some time, couple days. I'm gonna go back there. Oh, they still have that. Interesting launch coming up. Hopefully, or possibly. Atlas 5 N-22, the Starliner, the Boeing Starliner, is anticipated to launch on April 14th, 2024. And it says out of White Sands, but it also says out of Cape Canaveral, so I'm not sure. Huh. That's kind of neat. So Boeing will send up their Starliner again. We have a Falcon Heavy launch for April 30th. It's scheduled for April 30th. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. The Russians are testing their new rocket in April, the Angara-Vochesny-Agra test flight. So that's interesting. There's the Eris demo flight coming up. Like, there's a lot of new and interesting rocket flight coming up, space flight. So there was a relight, and I missed it because I'm looking at something else. So a relight to put it into its parking orbit.
So we just had confirmation of second stage burn of the MVAC engine on the second stage. And before we go to coast, let's learn a little bit more about today's mission. Telkomsat has chosen the Thales Alenia Space as the prime contractor of the satellite for on-ground delivery and making it in charge of early orbital positioning and in-orbit tests. Built on the Spacebus 4000 B2 platform, Merah Putih 2 will provide a capacity of more than 32 gigabits per second and a service life of 15 years. This is Telkomsat's first satellite with multi-spot high throughput technology, or HTS.
MVAC shutdown.
Merah Putih 2's HTS technology will provide broadband internet services with more capacity than conventional non-HTS satellites currently available in Indonesia.
Nominal deploy orbit insertion.
So we just had confirmation of second engine cutoff and nominal orbital insertion, which is great news. We'll be back in a few minutes for the deployment of Merah Putih 2.
As far as last week, there wasn't anything crazy that went up. There was a Block 5 for the US Space Force, but that's just a normal Falcon 9. Landed on LZ2. And there was Nova C, the IM-1 mission that went to the moon. That was on February 15th. And that also landed at LZ1, so it landed back online. Other than that, no, there's nothing. That's all that's left Kennedy last week. That's it. That's all that left. Officially. I don't see anything else. Let me see if there's a... If there was an SLS test run or... No, nothing from SLS. Nothing since April 26th. And that was at Stennis, so... in Mississippi. So no, there's nothing unusual. Test fire Artemis in 23. No, so that's odd. Unless something weird happened at Kennedy. But I haven't heard anything either. So we should officially be about a minute and a half away from deployment. It seems like we're a little bit behind. Just looking at everything that's going on. I take that back. S-28 did a static fire. So the SLS did a static fire. On February 11th. Would that be the time, like the time frame? No, that would have been that wasn't SLS at all. That's a Starship. So no, I have no idea. So that would have been in Texas. That wouldn't have been at the Cape. So no, unfortunately, I don't know. Scad, sorry. But other than that, we'll...
By a successful landing of Falcon 9's first stage on the drone ship, just read the instructions, which marked the 17th landing for that booster.
So we should see this payload deploy here very shortly. And there we
Payload
go.
separation confirmed.
An awesome view and confirmation of payload deployment of the Merah Putih 2 satellite. And with that, we've got confirmation of a good deployment.
That will float away until its final orbit. And that current second stage will burn back up in the atmosphere. So
all of us here at SpaceX want to thank our customer, Telkomsat, for entrusting us with today's mission. And we also want to give a shout out to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's efforts. That'll conclude our webcast coverage of SpaceX's 300th successful launch of Falcon 9, our 16th launch of 2024, and 311th overall mission to date. If you're interested in more launch coverage, be sure to check spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date info. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.
And thank you, SpaceX. Great job. And that was an interesting look from when it took off on the launch pad to the deployment. That second stage will come back and burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. That first stage will continue on to its parking orbit to provide satellite service for Indonesia. So it was an interesting look. And yeah, it was fun to see it all the way through. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for me. Please check back with us on, what is that, Thursday? Thursday for the touchdown of IM-2, as well as the launch of Starlink Group 715. And that's going to be it for me. So. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see any I didn't see anything scad, so. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Hope everyone has a great day, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.